There are some battles in life that no one else can see. Not every wound leaves a scar on the outside. Not every broken heart cries where others can hear. And sometimes, the person who looks the strongest, the person who smiles the most, the person who always says, "I'm okay," is the person carrying the heaviest weight inside, because the world sees your smile, but it does not always see your sleepless nights. The world sees you helping others, but it does not always see the moments when you are the one who needs help. The world sees you standing, but only God knows how many times you almost fell apart when no one was watching. Maybe you have been that person, the one everyone depends on, the one people call when they have problems, the one who listens, the one who encourages, the one who stays strong because everyone expects you to be strong. You carry your responsibilities, your family's worries, other people's expectations, the fear of disappointing those you love. And every day you tell yourself, "I can handle it. I just need to keep going. I cannot give up." So you continue, even when you are tired, even when your heart feels heavy, even when a quiet part of you wonders, "Who helps me when I am the one struggling?" At night, everything becomes louder. The problems you ignored during the day come back. The thoughts you pushed away return. The worries you hid behind your smile finally appear. You lie in bed, your body is exhausted, but your mind refuses to rest. You think about tomorrow. You think about your family. You think about money. You think about things you said, things you should have done differently, things that have not even happened yet. And while the world is sleeping, you are fighting a battle inside your own mind. You replay conversations. You imagine every possible problem. You prepare yourself for things that may never come, because somewhere along the way, you started believing that worrying means you care. You started believing, if I think about every possible thing that could go wrong, maybe I can stop myself from getting hurt. If I carry every problem, maybe I can protect everyone I love. But God never asked you to destroy yourself trying to control everything. There are burdens you were meant to carry, and there are burdens you were meant to surrender. But sometimes, the hardest thing to release is the thing you have carried for so long that it feels like a part of you. The regret from yesterday, the fear of tomorrow, the opinions of people who never understood your journey, the guilt from mistakes God already wants to forgive, the responsibility for things you were never meant to control. You hold them tightly, not because they bring you peace, but because letting go feels scary. You wonder, what if everything falls apart? What if I stop worrying and something goes wrong? What if I let go and lose control? But listen carefully. Worry has never added peace to your life. Fear has never made tomorrow safer. Anxiety has never changed yesterday. It has only stolen the strength you need for today. God sees how tired you are. He sees the weight you carry behind closed doors. He sees the tears you quickly wipe away. He hears the prayers you whisper when you do not even know what words to say. He knows the worries you never tell anyone, the fears you hide because you do not want others to see you struggle, the pain you cover because you believe you always have to be strong. But you were never asked to carry everything alone. Sometimes you pray and wonder, "God, why haven't you changed my situation? Why is this still so heavy? Why do I still feel this way?" But maybe God is asking you something too. Why are you holding something I asked you to give me? Why are you fighting a battle that was never yours to fight alone? Why are you carrying tomorrow when I only gave you strength for today? Think about all the things that have taken your peace. The words someone said years ago, the mistakes you cannot undo, the future you cannot predict, the people you cannot change, the situations you cannot control. How much of your heart has been spent carrying things that were never yours to hold? You cannot control every outcome. You cannot make everyone happy. You cannot prevent every storm from coming. You cannot rewrite yesterday. You cannot see every step ahead. But you can trust the one who does. The same God who carried you through yesterday is already standing in your tomorrow. The same God who helped you survive things you thought would break you has not left you now. You may not understand his timing. You may not see his plan. You may not know why certain doors closed, or why certain prayers seem unanswered. But silence does not mean absence. Waiting does not mean forgotten. There were moments in your past when you thought, I will never get through this. But you did. There were nights you thought the pain would never end. But morning came. There were situations you thought would destroy you. But somehow, you are still here. That was not an accident. Grace was carrying you in ways you could not see. So maybe tonight, the question is not, am I strong enough to carry everything? Maybe the question is, why am I still carrying what God never asked me to hold? Because peace does not begin when every problem disappears. Peace begins when you finally place your worries into hands stronger than your own. And maybe the freedom your heart has been searching for will not come from holding on tighter. Maybe it begins when you finally learn what to release. For so long, you believed that holding everything together was your responsibility. You believed you had to have every answer. You believed you had to fix every problem. You believed you had to stay strong every moment. Because if you stopped, everything around you might fall apart. But sometimes the greatest strength is not found in holding tighter. Sometimes the greatest strength is found in trusting enough to open your hands. There comes a moment when every heart must understand something important. You are human. You were never created to see every step ahead. You were never created to know every answer. You were never created to control every outcome. There are things in life that belong in your hands, and there are things that belong in God's hands. Wisdom is learning the difference. Think about how much energy you have spent fighting battles inside your mind. Arguments that never happened. Problems that never arrived. Fears that only existed in tomorrow. You carried the weight of days you had not even lived yet. You suffered through moments that were only possibilities. And slowly, without realizing it, your worries were taking away the peace available to you today. But God is not asking you to pretend everything is easy. He knows the road has been difficult. He knows the nights you questioned everything. He knows the moments you tried to stay strong while quietly falling apart inside. Faith does not mean you never feel afraid. Faith does not mean you never have questions. Faith means choosing to trust, even before you understand. Sometimes you ask, why did this door close? Why did this person leave? Why did my plans fall apart? You look at what you lost. But God sees what He is protecting. You see the closed door, but God sees the road ahead. You see the ending of one chapter, but God may already be preparing the beginning of another. There are moments in life when losing something feels like punishment, but later you realize it was protection. The relationship that ended. The opportunity that disappeared. The plan that changed. At the time, it hurt. At the time, it made no sense. But sometimes, what breaks your heart today is saving your future in ways you cannot yet see. Trusting God does not mean the storm immediately disappears. It means discovering peace while the storm is still around you. Because true peace is not found in controlling everything. It is found in knowing that you are held by someone greater than everything. Imagine carrying a heavy bag for miles. At first, you tell yourself, I can handle this. A little farther. A little longer. One more step. But eventually, your body becomes tired. Your strength begins to fade. And someone reaches out and says, let me carry this with you. The question is not whether help is available. The question is whether you are willing to release the weight. Maybe today that weight is regret. something you wish you could change, something you keep replaying in your mind, a mistake you have already asked forgiveness for, but still punish yourself over. God does not want you to spend your entire life trapped in a moment. He already wants to heal. Maybe that weight is fear of the future, the fear of what might happen, the fear of losing someone, the fear of not being enough. But tomorrow was never meant to steal today's peace. You will receive strength for the moments you actually face, not the imaginary battles your mind creates. Maybe that weight is trying to please everyone, trying to never disappoint anyone, trying to be everything for everybody. But even the kindest heart has limits. Even the strongest person needs rest. Even the one who helps everyone else needs to be helped sometimes. You do not have to earn rest. You do not have to prove you are worthy of peace. You do not have to carry pain just because you carried it for a long time. Some things can be released. Some chapters can close. Some wounds can finally begin to heal. And when you finally start releasing what has been hurting you, something begins to change. Not always around you, but inside you. Your situation may look the same. The problems may not disappear overnight, but your heart begins to breathe again. The fear becomes quieter. The pressure becomes lighter. The peace you thought was impossible slowly returns. Because God does not only change circumstances, sometimes He changes the person walking through them. He gives patience where there was frustration, strength where there was exhaustion, hope where there was fear, peace where there was worry. So tonight, think about the things your hands have been holding too tightly, the memories, the regrets, the fears, the things you cannot control, and imagine slowly placing them before God, not because they do not matter, but because they matter too much to carry alone. You may not know what tomorrow looks like. You may not have every answer. You may not understand why everything happened the way it did. But you can still take the next step, a lighter step, a peaceful step, a step that says, I do not have to carry everything by myself anymore. And as your hands slowly release the weight of yesterday, they become ready to receive something new, the peace you thought was lost, the hope you thought was gone, and the quiet reminder that your life was always held by hands greater than your own. There is a different kind of peace that begins to enter your life. When you stop fighting battles that were never meant for you to fight alone, it does not always arrive loudly. It does not always come with every problem immediately solved. Sometimes peace comes quietly, like the first light of morning after a long night. Slowly, gently, reminding your tired heart that you can breathe again. For so long, your mind was always running ahead, trying to prepare for every possibility, trying to prevent every mistake, trying to protect yourself from every pain. You lived in moments that had not arrived yet. You fought problems that had not happened yet. You carried tomorrow before tomorrow came. But today is where your life is happening. This moment, this breath, this day. God never promised that every road would be easy. He never promised there would be no storms, no disappointments, no difficult seasons. But He promised something greater, that you would never have to walk through them alone. Because sometimes the greatest miracle is not when the storm disappears. Sometimes the miracle is discovering a peace stronger than the storm. Think about everything you have already survived. The moments you thought would break you. The situations you thought you would never overcome. The nights when you wondered, how can I continue? But somehow, you continued. You found strength. You made it through another day. Not because everything was easy, but because you were being carried in ways you could not see. Maybe you are still waiting for answers today. Maybe there are prayers you have prayed for a long time. Maybe there are situations that still do not make sense. And a part of you wonders, when will everything finally change? But remember this, a season of waiting is not a season of being forgotten. A quiet season is not an empty season. Sometimes the deepest work happens where nobody can see. A seed grows in darkness before it ever reaches the sunlight. A tree builds roots before it grows taller. A new beginning often starts quietly before anyone notices. And your life can be the same. Even when you cannot see what is happening, something may still be growing. Something may still be changing. Something may still be preparing. So stop judging your journey only by what you see today. You are looking at one page. God sees the whole story. You are looking at one moment. God sees where the road is leading. You see the unanswered questions. God sees the things that are still being written. There will always be things outside of your control. People you cannot change. Outcomes you cannot force. Doors you cannot open by yourself. But losing control does not mean losing hope. Sometimes letting go is the moment you finally make room for something greater. You do not have to carry yesterday anymore. The mistakes, the regrets, the things you wish happened differently. Learn from them, grow from them, but do not build a home inside moments that have already passed. Yesterday was a lesson, not a prison. You do not have to carry tomorrow before it arrives. You do not need every answer today. You do not need to solve every problem tonight. Some bridges are crossed when you reach them. Some strength arrives only when you need it. Some answers appear only at the right time. So give yourself permission to rest. You have spent enough nights fighting invisible battles. You have spent enough days pretending you are not tired. You have carried things silently for too long. Now allow your heart to receive the peace it has been searching for. Rest does not mean you stopped caring. Peace does not mean you gave up. Trust does not mean you stopped trying. It means you finally understand. You were never meant to be the one holding everything together. The people you love are in God's hands. Your future is in God's hands. The things you cannot fix are in God's hands. And sometimes the most powerful prayer is not, "God, let me control this." Sometimes the most powerful prayer is, "God, help me trust you with this." One day you may look back at this season, the season when you worried so much, the season when you thought everything was falling apart, the season when you could not understand why things happened the way they did. And maybe you will finally see there was a purpose, there was protection, there was guidance, even in the moments that felt uncertain. The things that once made you anxious may become the story of how you learned trust. The nights you spent worrying may become the reminder of how you found peace. The moments you felt weak may become the proof that you were stronger than you believed. So tonight, before you close your eyes, before your mind begins searching for another thing to worry about, remember this. You do not have to solve everything before you sleep. You do not have to understand everything before you rest. You do not have to know every step of the journey. Place down the things that have been too heavy, the fears, the regrets, the questions, the situations beyond your control. Leave them in hands that are stronger than yours. Because the same God who carried you through every yesterday is already holding every tomorrow. The same God who saw every tear knows every worry. The same God who never left you before will not leave you now. So breathe, rest, trust. Your story is still being written. Your future is still held. Your heart can finally be free. Because peace was never found by carrying everything yourself. Peace begins when you remember you were always held by the one who never lets go.